Hey guys, Nicky Skevich back with Daily Fantasy Winners, ready for week 2 of this NFL season. Going to touch on some running backs here in this video. A few guys here that I like for week 2 as it pertains to the snap counts of last week, and then also take a look at some of the snap counts last week for guys I actually maybe don't like quite as much for week 2. There are going to be some guys that are actually pretty popular, I think, when it comes to ownership, or some people that I've heard, obviously a good amount of buzz about coming off of week 1, but I would just maybe temper those expectations a little bit, and you may want to look elsewhere. So we're going to take a look at 5 different players here total. Let's start off with the guys that I do like here for week 2. And taking a look back here now at the Green Bay Packers, and specifically Ty Montgomery. This is week 1 right here. Ty Montgomery, he played 74 of the 82 snaps last week, coming out to 90.24%. Obviously, that is a very high number. And actually, you also should factor in, Ty Montgomery briefly got nicked up in that game. They were taking a look at his left ankle or his left leg. It was one or the other. And there was in like the second half. I think it was the third quarter. Maybe it was early fourth quarter. But it was for a few plays in there. And so it arguably should have even been higher than this had he not gotten nicked up there at that given moment. And so obviously with Ty Montgomery, he still salvaged a pretty decent fantasy day last week, despite the only gaining 2.8 yards per carry, because he did get a total of 19 carries, only for 54 yards, but he got the touchdown, obviously, on the goal line, and then he still caught 4 passes, as we expect him to do, for 39 yards. And so that's obviously a very good sign for a team that some people at least were not completely sold about in terms of what Montgomery's workload would be, and if he's going to be the workhorse back type of a thing. But that's because they obviously drafted a couple of running backs like Jamal Williams, and in the NFL draft and everything. But it looks like, at least right now, and honestly, I think it's going to be this way for pretty much the entire year, unless one of the guys really steps up. But I think Ty Montgomery is going to be the workhorse back pretty much for the entire year. I think he's that good. Honestly, and it's one of those things where, because of his PPR value, I'm not going to say he'll be, David Johnson. Well, obviously, if David Johnson were healthy, unfortunately, but or Le'Veon Bell territory. But quite honestly, it would not shock me in the slightest if Ty Montgomery was a top 5 running back at the end of this year. Obviously, Rodgers is still going to sling it around some, so it's like his upside. It still isn't as, maybe quite as great as like Le'Veon's, although the Steelers' offense and their passing offense is still pretty good. So, in any case, I think Montgomery is priced way too low for what his expected value is. And you're taking a look at this for week 2, obviously, in comparison to week 1. The Seattle Seahawks had one of the best rush defenses in the NFL last year, and probably the best, actually. And it should be one of the best this year. So, obviously, Ty Montgomery gaining 2.8 yards per carry in this game, that's really not that big of a concern to me in the slightest. They're going to go up against the Falcons this weekend. The Falcons had definitely a poor rush defense last year. They gave up 6.6 yards per carry to the Chicago Bears in week 1. A very good sign, obviously, for Ty Montgomery and the Green Bay rushing attack. And obviously Montgomery's usage should be up there. And it should be a shootout. It should be back and forth. And so it should be a fun watch that night. And I think it'll be a great night for Ty Montgomery. So that is the first guy. The second guy that I want to touch on that I think will be pretty good here. He's a little bit, he's priced a little bit cheaper, as he should be, but that's James White. And so the New England running back situation was obviously a very popular topic this offseason. 4 different running backs between James White, Dion Lewis, Rex Burkhead, and Mike Gillislee, of course, in terms of how the snap counts were going to work out. And so obviously it's only week 1. We shouldn't overreact to snap counts too much, of course. But I do think because of the roles that James White and Dion Lewis play, and their relatively similar roles, it's a very good sign for James White when you see that he got not only by far the most amount of snaps on the team at 53.09%, but you take a look at Dion Lewis down at 7.41%. I don't think he got on the field until late second quarter, if I remember correctly. It was pretty late in the game, and it was only brief. It was only for a brief moment. And so, he only played 6 plays. So that's a good sign for James White, obviously, in terms of what his expected value will be. And obviously Mike Gillislee seems to be the other guy that's kind of got the LeGarrette Blount role to a certain extent. He's getting the goal line work, at least. He's not getting every first and second down work, obviously, like Blount was getting a lot of the time, or at least some of the time last year. But actually, Danny pointed out to me that Blount's workload in terms of the rushing game actually really did kind of go down at the end of last season. So maybe it is a better comparison than I'm saying. But in any case, regardless, James White I think is easily the best running back in play here of the New England Patriots running backs, and that's especially true on DraftKings because of his PPR value. And then we take a look at this for Week 2, the New Orleans Saints. That is definitely a defense you want to go up against, of course, in DFS. The over-under in this game, I believe, is 56. Patriots 6.5 point favorites last I looked. So that's obviously going to be quite the shootout. And the last thing I'll mention is just as a, obviously a guy who catches a lot of passes, not only is Julian Edelman out for the year, Danny Amendola still not practicing with another concussion, which obviously is it's terrible for him. And so it doesn't look like he'll probably play this weekend is my guess. So there could be some more shorter pass opportunities here for James White to get involved with the receiving game. And so just a lot of things going for him. This is just one of those games where, you're seeing James White down there and it seems like a decent option, but I think he's a much better option actually probably than people realize. And so I would try to get him into some of your GPP lineups at least. So I'm going to take a look at a couple guys that did have really good Week 1 performances that I think obviously could still have like a good Week 2 or maybe like a good season overall. But I would just temper the expectations a little bit here, and we could see a bit of an overreaction from the public here as we go into Week 2. And I'm going to start off with the Jacksonville Jaguars and LeGarrette Blount. So obviously LeGarrette Blount had a pretty good Week 1, of course, against the Houston Texans. The Texans were abysmal on offense, to say the least, most predominantly due to their offensive line. But if you take a look at Leonard Fournette, obviously, 26 carries for 100 yards, 3.8 yards per carry. Not the greatest yards per carry in the world, but not bad either. But 26 carries is a lot, and he even caught a few passes. The problem here is that for Fournette is he only got 60.94% of the snaps. And the Texans' offense was going 3 and out every single time. The Jags had the ball a lot in this game, and they were able to control the clock by running it a ton because they didn't want to throw it a ton with Blake Bortles. The opportunities that the Jags are going to have to play from ahead as much as they were in this game and have the offense on the field as much as possible, like this is about the best opportunity the Jags will probably have all season. I haven't looked at their schedule top to bottom. Maybe there's like 1 or 2 other matchups down the road. But now they're going to be going up against a Titans offense that is much better, who will obviously hold the ball for a much longer period of time. But also the Titans defense, especially against the run, is much better. The Titans was pretty solid against the run last week. I think it was actually 3.8 yards per carry as well, which it's not the best thing in the world, but it's not bad either. But at the same time, the Titans were one of the best rush defenses in the NFL last year, and the Raiders obviously have a really good offensive line last week when the Titans went up against them. So this Jaguars offensive line, I still think is a work in progress. I still don't think they're that great. And I honestly, the Titans are slight favorites. I think it's a slight overreaction for Week 1 results. I think the Titans, I think the game opened at like a pick'em, and definitely, and a few other people, we took the line at like at -1, -1.5, but I think the line's up to 2.5 now. And honestly, this line should definitely at least get to 3, I would think, by Sunday, and maybe even 3.5, maybe not 3.5, but we'll see about that. But in any case, I think this is just a little bit of an overreaction of Week 1. I just think the Texans' offense with that offensive line and the situation Tom Savage was put in there, that was just it was abysmal. There was nothing. The Texans had like no wide receivers healthy. They lost like pretty much all their tight ends to concussions. It was like a worst case scenario for what's going on with Houston. So I'm just saying this for right now. Like Leonard Fournette for this week, they're going against the Titans. Yes, they're at home. Yeah, it's kind of close to a pick'em game type of a thing, but I really do like the Titans in this game. I don't think the Jags are going to be able to play from ahead really very much. And Fournette's workload, again, like I said, the snap count at 60.94%, still a rookie. His workload may not be as big as we may realize just despite seeing all the carries from last week. So, okay, anyways, that's him. So we're moving on to the Chiefs now. Kareem Hunt. I kind of hate saying to temper the expectations on Kareem Hunt a little bit, just because I am a Kareem Hunt fan. I went to Bowling Green, even though he played at Toledo, which is the rival school. But at the same time, I followed the MAC actually in football pretty closely. So seeing Kareem Hunt being a star in the NFL actually isn't like the biggest shocker to me in the world. I'm glad he's already made a name for himself like this. But the one thing I'll just say about Kareem Hunt from last Thursday night is 57.35% of the snaps. That's not very high. And again, we're talking about a rookie here. So, yes, he had 3 touchdowns, and yes, he ripped off a big run, and his yards per carry was fantastic, and he had a great game overall. He still finished the game with, 148 yards on 17 carries. That's awesome. at the same time here, we have to realize that, like, that's one of the best case scenarios, I think, for Kareem Hunt. I wouldn't just go running to playing Kareem Hunt just a ton in your lineups this week. And obviously, Kareem Hunt's ownership, I think, will be pretty high this week, just because everybody saw him do what he did Thursday night on Thursday Night Football. They're at home going against the Eagles, and they are favorites. So it does seem like a decent spot. And if you do look at kind of the running back situation near the top, David Johnson's on IR. Le'Veon Bell didn't have a good week one, obviously, from a partial usage. Partially, it was just a usage and a game plan standpoint, but partially, the Steelers' offensive line wasn't. Sorry, I got a little bug in the screen there. Partially, also that the Steelers their offensive line wasn't very good against the Browns. I was a little curious, but in any case, there aren't many good top running backs with good matchups here this week. Going into week 2, and so I think there will be a lot of people gravitating toward Kareem Hunt. I would just say as a GPP, I don't know if you want to fade him per se, depending how many lineups you're making. You may just want to maybe limit your ownership. I would not try and over-own Kareem Hunt at 57.35% of the snaps when he's sharing them that much. They also just signed C.J. Spiller back because of the unfortunate Eric Berry injury, so he might play a little bit as always possible, and like on some passing downs and things of that nature. So anyways, I'm not saying Kareem Hunt's like a terrible play for week 2. I would just say hold on to those expectations a little bit. I don't think he's going to have a home run game here in week 2. This Eagles defense, of course, I think is much better than the Patriots defense that we saw in week 1, and they'll be particularly good against the run. So anyways, that was Kareem Hunt. The last one, this one's a little bit tricky. I'm kind of neutral on this situation here, but this is for the Raiders, and it's for Marshawn Lynch. So Marshawn had an okay game, I believe it was in week 1. Yeah, 18 carries, 76 yards, no touchdowns, and caught a couple passes for 18 yards. And so he's obviously getting, he's getting touches and everything. He's getting a decent workload. But at the same time, again, he didn't even play half the snaps. DeAndre Washington and Jalen Richard carried up about 45% combined there. So Lynch is only getting about half the running back workloads right now. And so that's not exactly the greatest thing in the world when we're talking about upside. Now, at the same time, we have to realize week 2, they are going up against the New York Jets at home, and they are 14-point favorites. That is extremely favorable. Sorry, I should have closed Skype before I started this. Let me close this so these stops beeping. Okay. In any case, so yeah, 14-point favorites, Marshawn Lynch. So that is that's a big spread. The Raiders should probably run it a lot and play from ahead. The Jets are absolutely atrocious. The only thing I would say here, though, because of this 48% snap count, in a game that the Raiders will probably end up blowing out the Jets, I just don't really see Marshawn getting much. If Marshawn got 48% last week, I'm not sure why it would be that much higher in week 2, especially if they're blowing out the opponent. I think they might just mix in, the younger guys like Washington and company. So it's one of those things where, like, yeah, Marshawn Lynch seems like a really good cash play, and he is a good cash play. But at the same time, for GPPs, I would just say I don't think he's a home run. I don't think we're going to see him get 25 carries for 175 yards like some people might think or expect. This could be just more like another 15 to 20 carry game for 100 yards and maybe gets a touchdown, which is still very good. I'm just saying the upside may not be as good as people realize. So that's why I said it's kind of a neutral situation. A lot of people are going to be on him, so I think he's still good for cash. But just for GPPs, I'm not saying he's the big home run, and I wouldn't load up on him per se just because of the upside and of the ownership that'll be there for him. So hopefully that makes sense. That's all I've got for this video. Sorry about the brief interruption there. So we've got Max coming on for a video. Actually, Max and I will be on for a video tomorrow night. I'm doing this on a Wednesday night. We'll be doing this tomorrow night after the Thursday night game, so it'll be up on Friday, I think. And so we'll be on for a video. We'll talk about some plays and some things of that nature, and we're going to get on more of a little bit of a regular schedule for you guys as far as this season goes. So that should be exciting. Anyways, thanks for watching. Please remember to like and subscribe to the YouTube channel. And then, of course, I'm at Nicky Skevich on Twitter, and DailyFantasyWinners is on Twitter at DFantasyWinners. All right, good luck, everybody.